It all began on a quiet night toward the end of spring. The bedroom felt unusually still, broken only by the gentle whir of the ceiling fan. Both windows were open, letting in cool air, yet the space between us felt heavy. I sat on the edge of the mattress, scrolling endlessly on my phone, acting unaware of Lily lying beside me. As usual, she faced away, her back turned like a wall I could never cross. That distance wasn't new. It had been building for a long time, longer than I wanted to admit. Not just the physical gap, but the emotional one too. For months, maybe longer, I had been the one making every effort. I reached for her, tried to pull her close, hoping to remind her that we were supposed to be partners, not just two people sharing rent under the same roof. But recently, every attempt was met the same way. A tired sigh, a subtle shift away from me, or a simple excuse about being exhausted. At first, I convinced myself it was stress. Then doubt crept in, and I started questioning whether the problem was me. That night I leaned toward her and pressed a soft kiss against her shoulder. Without turning around, she spoke, her voice flat. "Ethan, stop. Not tonight." I froze, staring at her shape in the dim room. "It's never tonight anymore," I thought. "Do you even care at all?" She let out a quiet laugh, not amused, but sharp and cutting. "You sound desperate," she said, "always begging for attention. Maybe if you acted like a real man instead of complaining all the time, I'd actually feel something." Her words struck deeper than she likely intended. I remember sitting there completely still, my chest tightening like it was being squeezed. I wanted to yell, to remind her of everything I'd stood beside her through her career struggles, her mental health battles, every difficult phase. But nothing came out. In that moment, I realized something painful. I had been pleading for love, for reassurance, for the smallest pieces of affection. No, she knew it. The following morning, she behaved as if none of it had happened. She brewed coffee, hummed to herself, and casually asked if I wanted breakfast. I watched her move around the kitchen, stunned by how easily she ignored the damage she'd caused the night before. That was when something inside me quietly changed. A calm realization settled in. I was done trying. I didn't declare it. I didn't confront her. Simply stopped. I stopped reaching for her. Stopped asking questions. Stopped hoping she'd suddenly care. I buried myself in work, started exercising again, and spent my evenings reading instead of waiting for her attention. And strangely enough, she noticed. One evening she looked at me and asked, "Why have you been so quiet lately?" There was confusion in her voice. I gave a small smile. It's just tired, I guess. What I really meant was that I was exhausted from being the only one who cared. That was the start of the end, even though neither of us understood it yet. Days blended into weeks, and my silence unsettled her far more than my pleading ever had. She'd look across the dinner table, waiting for me to speak, but I'd calmly continue eating. The man who once chased her affection no longer existed. In his place was someone she didn't recognize, someone who no longer revolved around her emotions. At first, she ignored it. Then, she started testing the waters. "Want to watch something tonight? Going to bed early again?" Her voice wasn't affectionate. It was careful, like she was trying to figure out what had changed. The real shift happened on a Saturday night at her friend's birthday celebration. I didn't want to attend, but she insisted. "It'll be fun," she said, pulling at my arm with a smile that never reached her eyes. The place was crowded. Laughter echoing everywhere, music humming softly. I stood near the bar with a drink while she circulated among her friends. That's when I overheard a voice one of her friends, a tall brunette named Claire. "So," Claire teased, "how's Ethan lately? Still obsessed with you?" Lily laughed, loudly, cruelly. "Oh, please," she said, used too practically. "Beg for intimacy. Now he's probably sulking too much to even try." The comment hit me hard, but not with anger, with clarity. I finally understood that to her, I had been something she could belittle whenever it amused her. What she didn't realize was that her words no longer had any control over me. When she approached me moments later, I set my glass down. "Ready to leave?" I asked calmly. She looked startled. "Already? The night's just starting." "For you, maybe," I replied, holding her gaze. "For me, it's finished." She frowned. "What does that mean?" I didn't explain. I walked out. That night, I slept better than I had in months. There was no rage, no heartbreak, just peace. The next morning, I packed a small bag and drove to my brother's house. When Lily called, I ignored it. The messages came later, confused at first, then irritated, and finally panicked. Ethan, what's going on? Are you really leaving over something so stupid? Can we please talk? I stayed silent.
Yes.
For the first time, my absence said more than words ever could. It wasn't about revenge. It was freedom. 3 days passed before I saw her again. I'd turned my phone off, needing space to think. Clearly, when I returned home to collect a few things, she was sitting on the couch in her robe, eyes swollen and red. For the first time in a long while, she didn't look confident or cold. She looked broken. Ethan, she whispered, the moment I stepped inside. Where have you been? I didn't answer right away. I walked past her, toward the bedroom. I'm just here for my things, I said flatly. She followed me, her voice shaking. You're not really leaving, are you? I said horrible things, I know, but I didn't mean them. I was angry. I turned to face her. No, Lily. You meant every word. You've meant them for months. You made me feel unwanted, insignificant, weak. And the worst part, I believed. You? Her lips trembled. Please don't do this, she said. I know I messed up. I exhaled slowly. This isn't about one argument or one night. It's about every time I tried to love you and felt like a burden. Laughed about me with your friends. Called me weak for wanting closeness. I'm done begging for what should have been ours naturally. Tears filled her eyes as she reached for my arm, but I stepped back. I never thought you'd actually leave, she whispered. That makes two of us, I replied softly. After I left, she didn't chase me, but a week later the messages started. Long apologies filled with regret. But I can't stop thinking about you. I hate myself for what I said. Please, can we try again? I ignored most of them. My life had already begun to change. Morning runs, reconnecting with old friends. Smiling without forcing it, I found comfort in the silence I once feared. Months later, one final message appeared. You were right. I treated you like nothing because I didn't realize how much I'd already lost. I stared at the screen for a long time before deleting it, not out of anger, but acceptance. Because I had learned something important. When you stop pleading for love, you make space for dignity. Sometimes the greatest form of revenge isn't rage or retaliation, it's peace. She once mocked me for wanting intimacy. Now she's the one reaching for something that no longer exists.